this is DrumWise Meets. I'm here with world-class drummer and educator, Tommy Igoe. Hi, Tommy.
Hey, what's up, Tom? How are you, buddy?
Okay, so my first question that you've probably been asked many, many times. So what age did you start drumming and what bands did you grow up listening to?
So, I had a little bit of a, maybe call it a head start or just a fortuitous beginning. My dad was a drummer, and he was a great drummer. And I came out, as my dad liked to say, he said, I came out of the womb playing, like hitting shit. And I used to just like grab my mother's pots and assemble them in a circle around me and just grab her knitting needles and just start like, hitting everything. And I remember my dad told me when I got older, he told me these stories, especially when I had my own kids. He told me, and he said, I just looked at you hitting those pots and I just shook my head and I just went like this. Like he just realized, he was like, oh no. He went, oh no. Cause that's what it is. It's like, and I couldn't even talk yet, so, and I just started wailing on these pots. And then when I got old enough to hold sticks, I used to just wail on windowsills and anything I could get my hands on. There were dents on everything throughout my house. So I played, before I could walk, I was drumming. And my dad, there's another funny story. My dad, so they used to have to hold me up on the stool, it's like my feet couldn't reach the pedal, right? And they used to have to hold me up, right? And so my dad said, and this is late 60s, early 70s, and there were no like baby drum sets like there are now. And he said, you know what? I know a bunch of guys. I'm gonna make him a mini drum set, right? And he made me a small drum set, right? Where I could actually reach the pedal, right? And he was so proud of himself. They turned a floor tom on the side and the whole thing. And I wouldn't touch it. I would only play the big one. I made him sit on the little one. And I was like, no, you play that one. I'm gonna play the big one. And it's like, he was like, I spent all this money on this thing and this kid won't even touch it, So I never even played the little one. So yeah, it was, we were just, it was drum crazy in my house, man, from the very, very beginning. And I grew up on a steady, my dad was a jazzer. So I grew up, on a steady diet of Buddy Rich, Art Blakey, and Steve Gadd, and my sisters were blasting rock on the other side of the house. And they were, Beatles, Bonham, my sister was really into Frampton and Springsteen, and like it was all this. I was getting all this. I was getting all the rock in this year. I was getting all the jazz in this year. And I remember like not understand. I remember truly not understanding genres. Like I thought it was just music because I just grew up listening to music, and I didn't even understand the idea of categories until later. Like things were put into categories, and I was like, I couldn't understand that. I just thought it was music, and I didn't separate it out, because it was like there was two distinct sounds coming out of my house. My dad was blasting the jazz, and my sisters were pummeling the rock, So anyway, that was my childhood.
Cool. I still feel that, like, yeah, when a student says to me, oh, like, what genre is this or something? And sometimes I'm like, well, does it matter? Like, it's music. Like, sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's how musicians think,
Yeah.
And then, the Whim Trio we had just put our stuff up on streaming, and you have to pick a category because they have to put you in a bin. People have to be able to find you from genre, and the newest band I'm doing is Whim Trio, and it doesn't really have a category. It's just a big mishmash of a whole bunch of different stuff. It's like, very much like if you listen to Snarky Puppy or like what do you call that? Modern instrumental, like that's just a death sentence. You don't want to call anything that, so, if Snarky's listed under rock and funk and fusion, and that's what we're listed under, but it really could be, anything of 15 different things, so the genres, getting labeled as a drag, but you have to call yourself something.
Yeah, totally. And actually what you just said about the little drum kit, since I first emailed you and we spoke about doing this, yesterday I had this moment with my little boy. This is just this, I'm just telling you this. I just waffling. Tell me to shut up. But he came in here and he's got like this song that he's always had. Like it's been his song. And it's always calmed him down when he's had a tantrum. And he came in here and I played it to him, and his face. It was just like the moment for him. Like, oh, okay, drums. And then he sat on my lap and we played it. And like he was properly going with me. I could feel like he was playing, and I was like, "Wow, this is like you're two."
Yeah, he's got it. You know, you can tell. You know, he's got it. You know, my daughter, who is not at all inclined to be a musician at all. She's much more into music. She loves music, but she's a dancer and she's into theater and stuff. That's her jam, right? Mm. And but she's got a fucking pocket on the kit. Yeah. Like she sits down, like she sits down and she's got like this natural like fat backbeat, like that you just have that, right? And I just looked at her and I was just like, you know, I know you're not into playing the drums. So I said, but if you did want to, you'd be freaking killing it, you know? So you know, she's got this nasty little pocket, you know, and it's just like, she just sits down and she plays that way, you know?
Yeah.
Really, it's just great. You know, it's really cool to see the organic thing. Like your son, for example, just sits down, right? Yeah. And he starts to play, right? And it's so totally organic.
Yeah.
Totally. You know, he didn't do anything to you. Just sit down. He just does it, you know?
Well,
some kids could just do that.
Yeah. And I do believe that some people are born with this kind of, you know, some people are born with it, some people aren't, but you can still be taught it, you know.
Oh, yeah. It's like, you know, everybody has gifts.
Mm.
At things, you know, it's different things, you know, it's like, you know, and it's, you know, you cultivate what you have, you know, it's like, you know, everybody has a different amount of like organic stuff that they're just kind of like giving out of the box, you know, and then like, but, you know, hard work beats talent any day of the week, you know, but talent with hard work is really something, you know, so if you're lucky enough to have some organic gifts, you know, you gotta respect that and work it, you know, because hard work will beat talent if talent is lazy. I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody. It's spring here and everything is blooming, and my allergies are out of control. I'm sorry, I'm wiping my nose all the time, but it's like everything's got a coating of pollen on it right now, and it's like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, poof. You know, so forgive me, everybody who's watching this. It's springtime in Northern California.
Very hard question. Do you have an all-time favorite drummer?
No, you know, I'm really bad at these questions. I don't really have an all-time favorite of anything. You know, like I was talking about with the categories before, I really just do believe in like music, and I take a very Duke Ellington approach to music. There's only two kinds of music, good and bad, and even that is very subjective, you know, on what people consider good and bad. But an all-time favorite drummer, I mean, you know, I grew up being very heavily influenced by Steve Gadd, and the amount of work he's done in different situations. If I had to go to a desert island, it'd probably be, you know, either Steve or Vinny, you know.
Cool.
If I had to pick one.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a hard one, because I couldn't just pick one.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, it's just like this, you know, and I'm like a real chameleon musically. So like, I mean, there's so many great drummers, you know, in the world. It's just like, and you know, there is no greatest. It's just, you know, amateurs. No offense to amateurs, but you know, amateurs have that debate. Like, you know, professionals don't. You know, professionals never get together and say, "Hey, man, who's your favorite drummer?"
Yeah, totally.
No one does that. Nobody does that.
But loads of amateurs are going to watch this, so it's fine.
Right, exactly. But they need to know that pros don't do that.
Yeah.
Because we look at music and look, I'm an amateur cook, okay? And I go and like, the one thing I love being is a student. So one of my passions is cooking, right? And I go and I inhabit the same like mirror kind of boards for drummers that there are for amateur chefs. And I want to know how professional chefs think. You know, I really do. I don't want them talking down to me. All right. And that's what I never do to amateurs, enthusiasts, and hobbyists. I talk to them like I would want to be talked to. And I want them to know professionals never say, "Who's your favorite drummer?" what we talk about is music. And, oh, isn't Tony amazing? Or isn't Dennis amazing? Isn't Vinny great? Steve's great. Buddy's great. Mel is great. Elvin, Art, blah, 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 blah. Right down the list. You know, and so the idea of having a favorite with all these amazing musicians in the world is very, very hard to do.
Well, my next question is, who's your favorite chef?
Oh, Thomas Keller. You know, I might as well aim for the stars. You know, Thomas Keller is my man. You know, but you know, I luckily, you know, I lived my whole life in New York. You know, until I moved to California, and there were so many amazing chefs running so many amazing restaurants. You know, and I got to know, you know, and you know, through being, you know, a relatively, you know, popular player, you get to meet some people. You know, and get into some of the chef. You know, some of these chefs. Sometimes, you know, this great chef. You know, I don't want to use his name, but he's an amateur drummer, and a passionate one, like really passionate. And when I went to his country, when I did all my clinics and stuff like that, I used his kit.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it was like the most expensive, like, you know, 15 toms and everything. And I said, dude, I'm just gonna use 2. That's all I'm gonna use. He was like, what? Oh, come on. You know, like it was like this monster, you know, monster kit from like death metal. You know, it's just like, I was just like, man, I'm just gonna use 2. That's all I'm gonna get. He was so disappointed. You know what's really amazing is that certain professions seem to line up with drummers, you know? And like, so I always, no matter where I land, I always have cops. I always have doctors, always. Tons of doctors, right? I've had priests, chefs, but now in California, I have biotech investor people, you know, like for some reason it's biotech. I don't know why it's biotech. Don't ask me. I don't know, but I have a couple of those like capital venture people that are like, you know, I don't even want to know how much they're worth. I don't care. But it's like those guys, you know? And it was funny. My dad had those guys too. My dad had doctors and cops and like, you know, all these different, like, they seem to like be drawn to the drums. You know, it's actually a very fascinating question.
I have quite a lot of like paramedics.
Yeah. Medical people.
Yeah, which is interesting because my wife is a paramedic, and I met her.
There you go. You see?
Through coming to have drum lessons. So
there it is. There it is.
How weird.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like there's like we should do like some kind of study to find out like who the, you know, we would find out the medical arts are very drumistic.
Yeah, totally. Just getting on to teaching, the teaching side of things. Why did you start teaching, and when did you start teaching?
Well, you know, I was raised by an educator. My father was a natural educator, and you know, he didn't go to school for it or anything, but he became the dominant instructor of his era in New York, and you know, he did it because, so here's an interesting story. Like, I'll tell you, I'm going to make pretend that you just asked my dad that question. Okay? Because you're a new dad, right? And I'm going to speak to, this will be very fascinating to young men and of course women too, but our instrument is predominantly male, 93%, I think. So a lot of the guys who might be listening to this right now might want to hear this story because it affected me, right? And my dad was on the road with Woody Herman when he had his first child. And he did not see that child for nearly the first 3 years of her life. Because he was on the road all the time. And he never forgave himself for that. And when he made a promise, when he came off the road, he said, I am never doing that. If I'm going to have more children, I'm never doing that again. So he made a plan to leave, and he said, I'm a pretty famous guy. I've done, you know, all these Benny Goodman and Woody Herman, and, you know, so he said, I'll go to New York and I'll start to teach. And that was why he started to teach. That was the impetus to be with his family. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. Wow.
So he left the road. So he had 2 more children. He had another, my the next daughter, and then me at the end. And I got to enjoy him being home the whole time, right? And that kind of thing, whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter. But it's like, if you're going to be away from your child, it hurts, you know, it hurts you. And he always, you know, he said, I should have quit. He always said, I should have quit earlier, you know? But he came home and he started teaching in New York, and it was a gigantic failure. People don't, people don't know the story. I mean, he told it all the time, but, he's been gone for a while. So he literally needed to take lessons from an established teacher to learn how to teach. That person was Henry Adler, who was a legendary publisher and kind of drum guru at the time, but not a player. He wasn't a player. He was just a guy he had a kind of a method, you know. My dad learned how to teach from him, and then took his method and adapted it to the actual playing world so my dad came home, and then he got the job at CBS and NBC orchestras. All right. And he was doing like the Jackie Gleason show, the Carl Burnett show, all these things. He was doing all those in New York. And then it started to really hit. And then he started teaching 40 students a week. Okay. And he did that for decades. And he had a waiting list forever. And he has one of the, this was before there were computers. He had a Rolodex with every single student had his own little flip card. It was like a giant wheel of cards that he had, going back to 1957. Oh yes, there's Joe Crowley. He took a lesson on this thing. And he had it all written down on a thing. It's great, man. It's sort of like old school. So I grew up around a great educator. And, I started teaching very early, and I had really, really amazing educators be my mentors. My dad, and then I met a guy named Daryl Bott, who was a great band director, and he really showed me what it was like to be a professional educator in a much, much larger aspect than just teaching privately. Okay. Much bigger than just giving drum lessons. And then I met Dennis DeLucia, who is a legendary drum corps guy. And he just bumped me up to another level after all this. So those were my three main mentors who I met when I was a young man, and they were all phenomenal educators. And then I started teaching very soon, around 16, 17 years old. I was teaching drum lines in high school. And then I just had a knack for it. I had a real knack. It didn't take me very long to realize that I had a voice as an educator that was unique. So what you see now is just me cultivating that over decades. When I do career counseling sessions, I do them personalized for somebody who actually I'm talking to, and I personalize my advice and my action plan for them. So what I'm giving right now is just a general overview. And I'll just tell you what I usually tell everybody is if you want to have a great roster, if you want to expand your student base, you need to be worthy of coming back to. You have to make your room exciting. And a lot of drum teachers are boring as hell. Boring. If you just sit there and just do the same old thing, okay, now we're going through tap, 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 and then we're going to go here. Bye, Johnny. See you next week. Johnny's going to get the hell out of here and go take tennis lessons, So you have to be able to make the student feel like he's on a path towards getting better every single time that he gets there. And that is on you. And the energy you create in your room will start to become viral if it's authentic and positive. If you do that, people will be flocking to you.
Cool, I like it. And actually, I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but we're busy. Normally, on a normal week, we have 100 students.
Hey man, you have your own logo. I can see that you're busy. Look at that, drumwise.co.uk. You got it going on, bro. That's you see, that's good. That's somebody who takes it seriously. I'm very impressed.
Yeah. We've got five teachers, including me. So, and
you're gonna franchise this shit out, man. I was in China, and I just did a thing for a drum school in China, and they have, after 1 year, now I'm not saying it's China, so it's a different thing, okay? But it's I'm not saying that you should do this, but they have 600 locations in 1 year, and it's all franchises. 600,
Wow.
yeah, and it's like 600 locations, and every location had 500 students. Think about that, right?
Wow.
So I believe that there is definitely an untapped enthusiasm around the world for what we do, and more people want actually an entry point to get in. And it's just like guys like you who are going to provide that. I mean, how many stories do you want to hear about, like, oh yeah, when I was playing with X and I was going and I was playing with that? I mean, the same old shit. This is more, I think, personally for me, a little more interesting when you hear, like, I went to China and I saw a franchise with 600 locations. It lets you know that there things can be done. There are ways to make things happen.
What do you find rewarding about teaching drums?
Well, education in general, I find rewarding to see people improve, and it could be any subject. You know, like I do the career counseling thing is great. You know, I've been doing a lot more of that. You know, I do corporate speaking where I speak to like a whole bunch of, you know, hundreds of people who have never played drums before, and I do a thing. It's called experiential listening. I do basically a 2-hour keynote on the art of listening, which is something that, you know, affects, you know, being a good listener is absolutely crucial if you want to be a good educator, because good educators are very, very tuned in to who they're talking to. If it's one-on-one or if it's hundreds, you're there for a reason. And good educators, they feel the room and they hear the room and they can listen. There's lots of different ways to listen. But one of my favorite things is doing these corporate talks and getting 500 non-drummers drumming. So I do this thing where I get have instruments, for all these drummers, and it could be like the last ones they did was in Vegas with an IT thing, and they're all non-drummers, nobody, right? And you get 500 of them. I get a 500 person 5-part percussion ensemble going on. No, not split hands. They all have one drum.
Oh, really?
And I assign parts to the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. So it's like throughout the whole thing. So it's like a percussion ensemble by the end. So it's really, really cool. Really, really, really cool. And the gratifying part of that, to get back to your question, the best part of teaching is to see and experience the pride of the student when they achieve. For me, that's everything.
So for me personally, your Groove Essentials and Great Hands for a Lifetime books and videos really helped to develop me as a drummer and my drumming. But I find that kids these days, they just go on YouTube and they've got the whole world at their fingertips. Unlike when I first started, learning, and I just about had dial-up internet, and but not really. It was all books and everything. But I feel like often they focus on the wrong things. They focus on chops and, how fast to play, when they completely don't think about groove, which, groove is kind of what it's all about, isn't it? And playing, from your heart and so on. So how have you experienced that? I mean, how do you feel about that? Basically kind of social media and kind of maybe giving kids the wrong impression of things?
Well, I mean, social media has been the worst thing that's happened to humanity ever in the history of humanity. People are chasing likes and followers, and likes and followers are not a barometer of quality whatsoever. But we have people like, people make a comment and let's see how many likes they get. They throw things up. I put a clip of myself up drumming. How many likes did I get? And then people are like, oh wow, well, the guys who are playing like wind-up dolls who are completely having a fit really fast, like just they're getting more likes than me. I gotta play fast too, so but let's be honest though. The drums have always appealed to people who want to shred them. And that's been ever since the first instrument was ever created. The drums are a physical instrument, and playing fast and playing with chops is absolutely glorious if it's used like by a guy who knows what's going on, listen, probably the easiest guy to say anything about who's got like lethal chops but a deadly groove is Dennis Chambers, and it's just that easy. Just say his name, and people will, some people might focus on the sweep and the thing and all that stuff, but that cat can sit and kill 2 and 4 all night, just 2 and 4, and the chops serve the groove, the chops serve the groove always. The groove is dinner, the chops are dessert, and young kids. So what we focus on as educators, we see kids who are like, oh, the kids are playing chops and the kids are like, kids do that, and I'm not worried about saving the world. I'm worried about saving the people who I can, who are going to listen to me. And you should be worried about the people that are going to listen to you. So yes, you're 100% right, but it's always been that way. The drums have always had people who can, and all they're focused on, I just want to play. Like now, go back 40 years, and a kid was like, I want to play like Buddy Rich. And it just was, Buddy Rich was the guy who I want to play. And now go forward 40 years. And from this point right now, go forward 40 years. There will be new names who are not born yet, who are the new shredders, who are they're going to play 5 BPM faster than who's ever playing right now, and they'll be the people who are going to look at that and go, oh my God, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and every drummer, if you're going to be serious, if you're going to be serious, that's the asterisk. If you're going to be serious, is going to learn very early on that no one gives a shit how fast you play. No one but amateurs. And if you're going to be a pro, groove and time and musicianship is everything. And all the amazing chops serve that. If they're going to be serious, there's the asterisk. Yeah. If you're going to be serious, because you'll be in your first band, whenever your first band is, it doesn't matter. Whenever your first band is, whether you're 12, 16, 18, 10, whatever it is, you're going to be in your first band. And if you're vomiting all over the groove, if you're vomiting all over the song, you're out. Yeah. You're gone. That's it. And then you'll say, perhaps it's not about 5,000 notes per minute. So everybody comes to that realization themselves. And there's nothing wrong with chops. Look at the way I play when I play live. I destroy a drum set. Like I light it on fire. It's absolutely great. But it comes after everything else. There's a checklist. You know what it is? It's a very simple checklist. It has one fucking item. You know what it is? Music. There's the item. That's it. Music. Underneath that umbrella is groove and time and fills and taste, tempo, touch, all those beautiful things. But it's got one item on a checklist, music. And when you check music, that means you're checking musicians and musicianship. It's just a matter of priorities. That's all it is. I'm done.
I love that answer. That was exactly what I was hoping for.
It's just one item, music. Poof, there it is. I believe in keeping things simple, as everybody knows. My whole thing is like, make it simple.
Yeah.
One item, music.
That's great. So a curveball one here. You've already mentioned one of these things. What are your hobbies away from drumming?
My number one hobby is laying back there right now. Captain, get up and say hello. Where's it? Captain! Captain! He's sleeping. Look at him. Come over here and say hi to Tom. Say hi to Tom. There he is.
Captain.
Hey, Captain! Star of my Instagram right there. Oh, yeah. Did we bother you? Did we bother you? He was sleeping. He was sleeping. Here he is. There he is. That's the guy right there. All right. So he keeps me physically active. We go hiking to the beach, and there's no such thing as throwing the ball too much for captain. This is never going to ever happen. But my things are, I've been obsessed with cooking for a really long time. And my wife knows that. She keeps getting me new cookbooks. I just changed my burger recipe. I know that people aren't here to hear this, but I got the Shake Shack. She got me the Shake Shack cookbook. And I was like, really? I was like, a burger cookbook? I was like, because we like burgers, right? And I was like, really? I was like, I went, what the hell, right? Oh my God. The best, the absolute best. My family is obsessed with these burgers now. So now, I'm cooking these burgers every other day. We have I know we have to stop eating so many burgers. It's terrible, but we've been I know. Look at me. I'm so excited about burgers, but cooking has always been taking classes and stuff. So I took and also I'm just big on reading and learning things. So the other day I took a reading comprehension class. From a speed reading class, which was a 2-hour master class on it, and pages and pages of notes and stuff. So I do stuff like that every day, just and I classical piano, and I'm always obsessed with that and stuff.
Oh, cool.
So,
yeah, I'm into cooking as well. I had a cooking course booked for a few weeks, but unfortunately, obviously, it's all been cancelled. But I'll do it.
That's why I'm so jealous with Ash Sohn. Is Ash is really tight with. Jamie Oliver.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. Ah!
Oh, is Jamie Oliver quite well known over in the US?
Oh yeah, I know Jamie, sure, from that TV show he was on. I forget, but I've had some relationships on. I feel like, man, I got to make some Instagrams for some chefs, man. To show Ash he's not the only guy. Ash is the best, man.
And one's kind of about your lifetime warm up. I often have, so I've done the basic one, the green one. I've done that with so many people over the years.
Right,
and
fantastic.
It is fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
I find that a lot of people, when you're going from 8th notes to 16th notes on the doubles, people that are early on in their playing, they find it really hard to go from the 8ths and then double them up. So what kind of advice could you give for someone that's struggling to push from the 8th notes to the 16th notes?
Well, I don't have a copy of the book here. I did yesterday. My student actually took it. But inside the lifetime, not the lifetime, but in the double stroke section, at the end of the double stroke section of the book, there are 2 check patterns. And a check pattern is when you check something that doesn't sound good against something that does sound good. So the classic single stroke, double stroke check pattern is 1 bar of singles and 1 bar of doubles, and you go back and forth. So single, 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 double, 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 all 16th notes. And that exercise alone should be taken, and they have the student become proficient at that exercise. Bar of 16th note doubles, bar of 16th note singles, bar of 16th note doubles. 16 notes in each bar. The only thing changes is the singles and doubles. And that's the classic double stroke check pattern. Now that exercise, if taken alone and appreciated, will get the student up to about a quarter note equals 130, okay? And that's where the beginner lifetime tempo sits, okay? So now when you take the student and you say, okay, well, you're playing at 130, congratulations, you've arrived, okay? And you say, okay, fine. Now we're going to do a different check pattern. This just check pattern is going to it's going to double up. We're going to take our 8th notes. We're going to go to 16. So we replace the first bar with just 8th notes. Okay, it'd be da 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 digga 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 da. Right? Okay, right. But we're not actually going to do that for anything other than let them hear the rhythm. All right. What you're going to do is that you're going to play check pattern B. Check pattern B is the next check pattern that's in the Great Hands for a Lifetime book, okay? So there's 2 at the end of the double stroke section. Again, I'm gonna say, when you go to the end of the double stroke section, it's the page before paradiddles, okay? There are 2 check patterns, A and B, okay? And you're going to play check pattern B for them now, because check pattern B is a motion check. All right. So you're getting to that point. So when you have, that's a great point. Like that exercise right there is a great way to think of a backdoor in to get a student out of his own way.
Going to help a lot of people. Cool. Right. Another little curveball one for you here. And I believe I have to call this a cookie. So what's your favorite cookie?
Chocolate chip, man. Come on. If I had to go, it got to be chocolate chip on the way. Now, listen, I make cookies. Not surprised, because I bake too. Not only do I cook, I bake. And when I bake, I make chocolate chip peanut butter cookies.
Oh.
Now, peanut butter, I know peanut butter is not that big in Europe, okay?
Oh, no,
but,
that sounds good.
Yeah, but it's not even peanut butter, it's peanut butter chips. So you get chips and the dark chocolate and peanut butter chips in the cookie. I'm sorry, I can't talk about it because I'm going to go make some when we're done here right now.
Oh, that's brilliant. We just made gingerbread men with my
Oh, you see? That's what I'm talking about, man. There it is.
I've eaten like 5 today. It's not good.
I know. That's the problem. See, that I have to make when my kid. Luckily, my kids just clean me out though. When I make the cookies, they're like, I'm like, one day, I'm like, what the hell?
Where have they gone?
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. If you could give one bit of advice for up and coming drummers, what would that be?
Okay, so up and coming drummer is okay. So there's up and coming full-time professional. There's up and coming part-time enthusiast. There's up and coming, I just want to have fun. Pick one.
The first one.
If they want to be professionals full-time.
Mm.
Okay. So here's your advice. Okay. Your advice is you had better take this as seriously as you've ever taken anything, because this profession eats people alive, and it does not care about how good you feel about yourself or how many likes you have or how your mom thinks you're the best drummer in the world. No one cares. Move to where the music is. I'm going to say that again. Move to where the music is. So if you're interested in country and or maybe doing like some kind of like country pop gigs, you'd move to Nashville. If you're interested in doing more of a jazz or theater work, you're going to want to actually move to New York. If you're interested in doing pop gigs, you want to go out and do major tour, you might want to move to LA. You want to go where the music is. So get ready and be all in. And the other thing I tell people is that you have a very short window to do this like a crazy person. Like from like 18 when you get out of high school through basically 30. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean by that, like you're going to eventually not be a kid anymore. And you're going to have maybe a wife, and you're going to want a family, and you're going to have a house. And all those things bring pressure, commitments. That's what being an adult is. But when I was a kid, you live with your friends, you get a shit apartment, you have 5 dudes in a one-room apartment eating SpaghettiOs. You're going out until 4 a.m, seeing the best drummers in the world, sitting into jam sessions that go like you're just waiting in line to maybe play one tune, but you meet people and you go out and then you understand. And here comes the advice, Tom. Ready?
Ready. This
is a people business. It's all about relationships. Everything in the music, almost every business is like that, but this one in particular, relationships. So what you need to do is understand that everything you do and everywhere you go is building your brand and your reputation. Every post you make, how you interact with people, what you stand for, what you won't stand, how you conduct yourself. Do you smell? Do you use deodorant? Do you dress like a slob? Do you show respect to the instrument and other people? Do you know the history? Everything you do. And that deodorant smelling comment is from experience, not mine, but somebody I knew wouldn't get gigs because he smelled. That like matters. You're on stage with somebody and somebody's like, that's like disgusting. You know? It's like, and people don't take it. That stuff matters. And no one, you see what I'm saying right now? No one tells kids this. And they have to know. Everything you do affects the relationships you make. I'm going to say that again. Everything you do, it reflects and it affects the relationships that you make. So be a good person. Be cool. Be a hang. You know? Don't be a dick. You know?
That's the one. That's
the one.
Tommy Igoe says, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick, you know? Remember how I said the checkbox, you know, the list is very small? There's one thing on it. Don't be a dick, yeah. You know?
Yeah, let's go back. Go back.
It's a very simple checklist. So, like, you know, the thing is, like, it really is, like, in all seriousness, like, the people who are looking for advice, it is a relationship business, man, and you have to understand that everything you do affects the relationships you make.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Totally. Tommy, thank you so much for spending your time with us here at DrumWise. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. All the best and stay safe.
Hey, it was great talking to you, too. Thanks for the great questions. I hope people enjoy it.